Well, of course, we've heard that we are facing at least another week of load shedding. So we're not out of the woods yet, and we do know that it's likely to be in our lives for at least another couple of years. There have been many calls that an energy emergency needs to be declared. And in fact, the President himself said on Monday in his newsletter that in the coming days, he's going to be announcing a plan of action. We're yet to actually hear from the President, but yesterday, of course, his spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya, did tell us it was on the cards, all options were on the table. Well, this evening, Business Unity South Africa is now ramping up its voice, calling for urgent action, focus and partnerships to avert a massive energy crisis. The business body says progress in this regard has just been too slow, and that government needs to treat it with the same urgency it treated the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. They've proposed a set of interventions that can be implemented right away. Let's get more information from Busa's CEO, Cass Kuvadia. Cass, thank you very much for joining us twice in 1 week. We chatted on Monday. We were talking about the anniversary of the July unrest, and now another strong message from Business Unity South Africa saying these are the things that can work. We've heard from the National Planning Commission. They want the President or the Cabinet to declare an energy emergency, and that would include some of the suggestions that you've actually got here. It would help unblock the red tape. You say that Operation Vulindlela has done good work, but not enough in cutting the red tape, making it so very onerous to bring new power on board. Talk to me about some of the other points of action that you've got in this message.
Oh, Sally, and thanks for having me. We've decided to issue the statement because we believe that the President should sooner rather than later actually make whatever announcement is being promised. And we expect that announcement to be decisive and to actually put a plan on the table that will address both the short-term issues, but also address the medium to longer-term issues in enabling energy security in our country over the long term. What we're saying in our statement is that we're not saying that it's for government to solve. We're saying that business is ready to work with government on the basis of a workable and implementable plan that we hope the President will announce. Some of the issues we're talking about, you talked about unblocking red tapes. We're saying remove caps on registering self-generation projects, get as many private sector projects on the go and into the grid as quickly as possible. The other issue, and might be a controversial one to some, but we believe that in the renewables to insist on local content rules when we just don't have the manufacturing capacity for some of the local content being insisted upon. We think in this crisis is an inappropriate way to go. So we are saying suspend that until we are over the crisis. We've been saying something for years, increasing the regulatory and size of IPPO rounds for renewable energy. Establishing an emergency fee-in tariff framework to enable Eskom to buy power from existing generators and from citizens who are actually going off the grid or substantially going off the grid and would have spare power to actually sell to Eskom. Resolving the bottlenecks in transmission infrastructure. Scalable wheeling framework to ensure that we get energy to end users where it is needed. Developing a public-private transmission partnership network to establish quicker building times, and then urgently addressing currently the sabotage at Eskom, the theft of copper cables and so on. We need to begin to get to the bottom of these things, send in a crack team into Eskom and unearth this and bring people to book. So those are some of the things we're suggesting. We're suggesting that we are ready and willing to work with government in a partnership to try and address some of the issues, to try and address this crisis. And the ultimate objective is to add 15 gigawatts of new capacity, mainly renewables, to the grid, as well as 4 gigawatts of battery capacity.
It's interesting.
By the end of 2024.
It's interesting
Sorry,
that,
Sally.
no, my apologies, that the statement says that really you're prepared to sort of mobilise the same sort of people and the same kind of energy where we saw government and business coming together during COVID-19. And that was a tremendous effort. And you're saying that you can pretty much do the same thing again. Talk to me about how this would speed things up, because my understanding is it's going to take 24 months to either stop load shedding according to the original plan or get new power to the grid. So what is actually going to be sped up?
Well, look, no matter what capacity you bring to bear, we're sitting with load shedding for the next 2 years, because we're not going to get renewables and onto the grid less than 2 years from now. The embedded energy projects that have already been passed are only starting to be built now. So there's obviously a lag time of between 18 and 24 months. But what we can do now is, one, look at how what needs to be done to ensure that we get as much private sector generation going as quickly as possible. What sort of infrastructure do we need? Will government enable the private sector to say, okay, whoever is in a position to actually put up the infrastructure to generate power, we are going to clear all obstacles in the way for that. So let's pull together relevant people. Let's pull together the technical people to enable all of this to happen. Let's look at what we need to do at ESCOM to at least get ESCOM to begin to work in a way that it minimizes load shedding. It's not going to stop load shedding, but it minimizes load shedding. So if ESCOM needs more engineering capacity, more capacity that will help it actually manage load shedding better, then we are prepared to say that let's find that capacity in the private sector.
So the private sector is basically saying to the president, we are ready, we are at your disposal, we want to help as much as possible. The problem is the president has to navigate members of his own cabinet who are going to be very unhappy with your suggestion that local content rules need to be lifted for a while, because there's been a big drive from, I think, Ebrahim Patel for localization. But also, we've just heard from Bladen Zemande, you know, there's a distrust of business. And the president is not in the most secure position politically at the moment. So what advice do you have for the president as he may want to take up business's offer, but also has a lot of political issues to consider at the same time?
It doesn't behove me to advise the president, to be quite honest, but we're not pretending that this is an easy thing to do. I think the president needs to jump forward and lead this country as president of this country. He has responsibilities as president of the ANC, but he needs to put his responsibilities as president of this country above that. He needs to take, in my view, the political risk to do that. The president, when he was elected, people, a couple of 100,000 people voted for Cyril Ramaphosa, not for the ANC. And there was a broad base of support for the president. And I think the president needs to now say, I had that support. I believe I still have that support. This is a national crisis. And as the president of this country, I'm going to take the hard decisions that are necessary to take. And I think that's the sort of action that's needed. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I know there are a whole lot of political considerations in the run-up to December, and we are sensitive to that. But right now, this is a national crisis, and we've got to put the nation first, and not any political party or not anything else.
Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. Casco Varia, he, of course, is CEO of Business Unity South Africa.